Okay, welcome, Heller Barnes live, and we have a flake today. Mr. Heller is out at, if I remember right, he's out at McMillan. He's recording. He's in his studio, and so he got called away. So he's doing important things, basically lining his own pockets instead of being here with us. But we love him anyway. And so I have a fantastic guest. So Claudia Dunn, welcome to the show. Super happy you're here. How you feeling today?
I'm great, Dawn. Thank you so much for having me. Such a
Well,
pleasure.
and for some of the people, no one will know this.
Mm.
We actually have a shared history that goes back over 40 years. We did not
Mhm.
know it until
Yeah.
recently. I mean,
Mm.
probably 4 or 5 years ago, we figured out we had a connection. But 40 plus years ago, her husband and I were at the same school, music school here in Hollywood, and he was an instructor, and I was a first year student. He was kind of a TA type, I guess, back in the day, way beyond where I was at that time. Okay, so I was new to Cal. Anyway, super smart guy, a guy who even my wife, Lisa and we weren't married at that point, but she knew who he was because he has a great name that's memorable, and he was a great guy. And I was always talking about all the instructors, and so we go back 40 plus years, and I think your husband, you were introduced to him by a friend of mine, is that correct? Do you remember?
Absolutely. Yeah. Bobby and his wife Kelly, who I had done musical theater with, and Bobby was an instructor at then PIT,
Yep.
Percussion Institute,
Yeah.
as well. They were both drummers and
Yeah.
percussionists.
It's so funny.
So
It's
yeah.
bizarre that things come around. And so let's talk about you. I mean, so that's super cool, and it's one of those rare things where you meet somebody and figure out, wow, we have a shared connection here. And actually, I think we were in the same room because we were both at this wedding. Um, and I think we were even at the same table simply
Uh,
because
yeah.
we sat with Joe Picaro. And so Lisa, the bottom line is it's pretty bizarre that we might have been in a wedding at the same time, at the same table 40 years ago. And I look still 100% the same. There's no difference.
Clearly,
Yeah.
clearly.
And you look
Yeah.
better. All right. So that's,
Bless you. Nowhere to go but up.
and you had the
I,
most bizarre background. I think you took the traditional route where you did musical theater, and then somehow I think you ended up in the White House press office. Is that close? How in the world did you pull that off?
That's right on. Yes, it was quite by accident actually that I ended up in the White House or made my way there. I was on, my degrees were in theater and dance at University of Maryland, and
Yeah.
so I was in that DC metro area. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Welcome. Good to see you. Um,
So you were
yeah,
doing theater and dance in the DC area?
yeah, I was doing dinner theater and things that I could do nearby while I got my degree. And then when I graduated, a friend of mine said for the summer, did I want to come downtown and do a part-time job before I went to get my pursue my MFA at Catholic University in DC there in theater. That was the plan. And so I was going to do a little summer job, and I went downtown to interview, and I had no idea where I was going. I didn't realize it was the White House I was going to interview. It was the old executive office building, which is in the same gated complex. But at this time, I didn't know that. Didn't spend much time in DC. I was in Silver Spring, Maryland. That's where I lived. Um, and I did the interview and got the job essentially because I could type fast.
Ah,
Because I had taken a class in high school to do term papers and things to typing, so it was, there was a lot of transcribing at the time. Now that's gone the way of AI, I'm sure, but at the time, we did a lot of transcribing of interviews and daily briefings and quick turnaround to get to the press so they could file their stories.
that's
So,
cool. Well,
mm,
almost everybody's been worked at the White House, so that's kind of traditional
I
route
know,
to
it's
get here.
that old chestnut.
What sort of things so you were with the press office, and then I've even heard there's some rumor that you hated the president at that time and you tripped him. Is that how that story went down?
Complete accident. It's completely by accident, let the record show. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, I did trip him on, South Lawn one Sunday when he had come back from Camp David, and, it was all during the Iran-Contra scandal, and there was a lot of upheaval, if you'll remember that. And so there were a couple of A-listers in the press pool, the small press pool, like Sam Donaldson, was provoking him 'cause that was his job, once he got off of Marine One, off of the, helicopter, to just walk, usually just like a 30-second walk into the West Wing, and that was it. Then everyone went home. But today on that day, he got a bee in his bonnet because Sam was provoking him, and the president, basically ran as quickly as he could move at the time toward Sam, and he didn't see me because my job was to kneel in front of the rope on the president's side with a boom mic and capture everything that he said or any senior staff member said and then go back and transcribe it to get the most accurate recording for the White House archives. But he did not see me, and, as he got close, his toe got caught under my thigh, and he caught air and flipped over top of me, landed on his hands and knees, and ripped the knee of his pants, and I went with him like that, and, at the time, we were not allowed to wear pants, the lady folk, to work, so picture that. And so we ended up with a pile of Secret Service agents on top of us, because about a year and a half earlier, he had been shot. That was
Wow.
the timing. So they were uber vigilant, and, we traveled the world together, but in this moment, things happen so quickly that, they just do as they're trained. They're wonderful agents. Pardon me. And, so
So
they peeled off of us eventually, and, President Reagan grabbed my elbow like an elder gentleman, and said, "Did I hurt you?" And I said, "Oh, no, Mr. President, I'm fine. Are you okay?" And, he said, "Oh, yeah, yeah." He couldn't have cared less. He didn't have a self-conscious bone in his body. I could see he'd just fallen off enough horses and enough movies. And, he said, "Let me help you up," but I really helped him. And, we got up together, and I didn't know what was gonna happen to me, if there was gonna have to be a fall guy,
yeah.
pun intended. Um, but everything was hunky dory, and that he was okay, except for his pant leg. I'm sure he had to have that, tailored. But it was all caught on camera by the camera. Channel 7, I think, was in the pool that day. And, Cal, the cameraman, he teased me mercilessly for months, like, "I still have that in the can. I still have." So I'm hoping those were before the days of social media, but I'm hoping it doesn't surface somewhere in some meme.
Yeah. I think even if it does, it's it's better. I've tripped a dog. I've fallen all over my own feet, but never a president. So that's super cool, sort of.
Like, it was a happy ending, so
Yeah.
that was the yeah,
And well,
good
but
double
of course
spend.
that leads to narration and audiobooks. That's how.
Well, and
Clearly.
or getting a job with a future president, just based on, I tripped the other guy, so maybe, like, they might like you
Sure.
better, I don't
Yeah.
know.
And
Exactly. I could see the appeal.
when you were, I also I checked out some of your bio stuff. Um, you had something to do with a nuclear warhead. Were you trying to start a war over in Europe? Can you tell us
The
how that
football wa
transpired?
the football was left in your charge, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
and yeah, never do that. Um,
manning the red
yeah.
phone.
Right. Um, yes, the nuclear warhead incident was, well, I was doing a USO tour in, across Europe. We went to the Sinai, and, Czechoslovakia was part of that tour, and it was a very, desolate station that we went to from some of our, soldiers who'd been there for months and months, and then the morale was low, and they really wanted us to go to this outpost to help, lift the spirits. And there was feet of snow on the ground. It was dead of winter, and we got to this post, and a couple of the guys called us over. It was just a group of 5, and called a couple of his girls over and said, "Hey, you wanna see something really cool? We have a nuclear warhead." I said, "What?" I mean, it wasn't a
By the way,
nuclear
that's a guy
base.
trick.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
men all say that.
If I had a dime for every time I heard that one. but then we got a nuclear
Usually
warhead.
works well with all the girls, right? Yeah.
Exactly, it's such a chick magnet, that one. And so he took us down this kind of rickety wooden walk kind of bridge walkway to where they keep the warheads, and, there she lay on her side, and he said, "You can get on top of it if you want." And we're like, "Really?" And we were just that crazy and that, we
Yeah.
wanted the photo op, so the 2 of us girls got on top of the warhead and
Dr. Strangelove part
yippee-ki-yay,
2.
took a couple pictures, so I do have, photo evidence.
That's so cool, that's so cool. Now let's talk about performance here.
Okay,
Because I mean, like Lisa, so Lisa did, the theater at University of Michigan
yeah,
and, uh, musical theater, and then,
grade school.
has a voice degree, but you seem to be kind of in parallel a little bit. Um, do I remember reading you did some ballet and, that kind of thing?
Yes, I double majored in dance and theater, so, of course, ballet, is required,
Yeah,
and, but I ended up doing at the time, the '70s, modern was kind of there was a lot of modern dance activity in the DC area, and so I ended up doing a couple of companies there as modern dance, and then musical theater was a lot of jazz, as Lisa knows, character work, a lot of character dance, and so that lent itself more to jazz, like traditional jazz. So and then I did attend a ballet at the Bolshoi in Moscow, which may be what you're alluding to. Um, and the interesting thing to me about that, and it's a memory I hold dear, is that it was for the Reagan Gorbachev summit, peace summit, Glasnost. So it was the first time the superpowers had come together after years and years of the Cold War, and these two men, could manage that. They had a relationship, and I was able to go to a very special performance, a command performance by the Bolshoi Ballet, and so I was sat in the box next to the president and Gorbachev and their wives, and, and next to me was Colin Powell,
wow.
and as soon as the lights went down, I felt something on my shoulder. He's a big guy. He was a big guy, and, um and I looked up and he was crying like a baby. He was just sobbing. It was probably a combination of exhaustion, all the pre-briefing, and just the fact that we got to this point, and his understanding of that as a military leader and, um, global peacemaker. So he really that was really special that time.
That's so cool. Now, so in other words, let's summarize that inappropriately. You have done a ton of performing, and then I assume how is that? So fast forward 40
Mhm.
years. How does that influence your narration and your audio description? And does any of that even matter today?
I'd say every experience we have in life, it goes into the same pot, and I was a young woman at the time, so I was still formulating and finding out who I was and who I wanted to be. I definitely learned a lot about decorum and listening and observing before you open your mouth. Sort of, a lot of our job wasn't to be not seen and not heard, sort of just to be kind of around the periphery. So I did learn that in that environment, about propriety and how certain people at levels, at those high levels of government and conduct themselves. And I do think that I can draw on that in my work. I have drawn on it. There's how we all have a voice print, and we have certain areas that were our sweet spots,
Right.
and so I think it kind of lends itself to where I tend to sit vocally.
Well, tell us about your sweet spots. What genres do you like? What when you get a project, you go, ah, right in my wheelhouse.
Uh, I'd say, well, like dream projects are political thrillers for me. That's something I love. I love the whole thriller genre. I love the tension, building of tension, and the character work you often get to do in those stories. Um, and of course, the political piece because it's familiar and it feels there's so much opportunity in it, for intrigue and espionage and all the things that, we hear and read and hear about every day in life and in fiction. So, I really think that's really my favorite, but I've been doing a lot of more, memoir recently,
Wow.
historical memoir. It's just kind of one is sort of led to the next or, with independent authors, and I really love that too because you are really holding someone's baby. This is their life story, and you're we always handle our projects with care, of course, but I just feel an extra degree of intimacy, especially if you have the gift of being in contact with the author and
Right.
being able to ask them questions, right, and get their guidance along the way. So there's a range of things, but those I'd say that's my real favorite. That's what lights me up.
Well, I know there's something though that some of us, at least and I have talked about it, but you do also something called audio descriptions, right? Or is that the right term?
Audio description, yep.
Okay.
Yes, I
So
do,
I'm
yeah.
ignorant. Explain to
I wouldn't
me.
say that, Don.
Well, hey, it's the truth in hundreds of areas. Tell me. So, a lot of people really don't understand it or haven't heard of it. Um, Tell us a little bit about how does it work and what do you do with that and why is it a good fit?
Yeah, audio description, is the desc the narration of action, facial expressions, visual elements between the dialogue or essential sound elements like explosions, that helps to forward the story, that gives vital information to the blind or vision impaired person, to further and flesh out the experience of that piece of media. So it really is a, kind of closed caption for the blind. It's like a shorthand I use for it, but we all know closed caption, we're all very familiar with it. I often use it just, to keep the volume down or if I can't understand what they're saying. So, um, audio description is kind of it hasn't been as prevalent because it's more labor intensive to create. Someone has to watch the movie or the TV show or the piece and create a script, and then they supply it to the narrator, unless the narrator is also the writer, and then you do it all. But for me, I have not, acquired that skill. It's a very specific skill because you have to really know what to choose. There's not much space between dialogue and things,
Uh,
so
do you have to fit all your stuff in?
Is it a timed read then?
So
You're doing the timing?
yes, well, what we used to do before, before we used software and we're still on the page, is we would have the time codes, um, on the screen, and you would and they would also be printed on the page, so you'd have to your eye would be jumping back and forth from the screen to the page, making sure you were finished by that second time code, right? But now we have handy dandy software that creates, the chunk of text will be on the bottom of the screen, and you're watching the piece in real time. So you have the visual up there on the screen, and then 2 vertical lines will come slowly toward the center, and you use your peripheral vision, and you know that when they touch, the card will flip to the next piece of dialogue. So you have to be done by the time they touch,
yeah.
but you don't have to keep looking at the time code. So that's a big, development and a big help in the process.
And that's just that's not so that's almost Lisa does all sorts of commercials and things and
Mhm.
yeah, she has to fit something within a certain time frame and
Yes.
does that mean
Or I have the video and I have the script and I need to make time yeah,
Yeah,
same sort of
right.
thing.
Yeah, but yours is you're in between. Hers is fitting with the video and stepping on like it's supposed to have the right word when the mountain shows, and then if her word was yeah, boom,
Yes.
so there's certain points that she's doing and you're trying to fit in between. So so you now the software is pre-programmed to tell you start and stop of your segment, correct?
Yeah, so, as soon as the new card flips up,
Mm.
those vertical lines start again from the sides.
Yeah.
So with every new chunk of dialogue, for me, the lines begin back again at the outer edge, and they
And as
start
soon as you
inward
see
again.
it, do you start narrating that? So it only shows during the spot that you are supposed to be, that's your time, basically?
Yes, it shows during, it's timed with the space in the between the dialogue and the piece.
Uh-huh.
That's all done previously before I get into the studio. It's all set to exactly where, so there's a lot of, preparation, there's a lot of pre-work
Right.
to audio description, whereas with closed captions, it's more straight transcription,
Right.
you know?
And obviously, so far that is not a process that you do at your place. That is a in your studio. That's a you go in. uh,
I go in, yes, I go in for my audio description. Now there are several companies that do remote
mm,
audio description. You have to set yourself up with the proper software and, um, you would be doing more of that yourself, the tech stuff.
Right.
So there are different ways to go about it, but, for me, I go in.
Cool. I mean, it's something that's on your site, and
I've seen, excuse me, things that you've posted, where it'll have just the little snippet of what you're doing, or describing the actual trailer perhaps of the movie or something that, with your description in it. But how did you get started doing that? How did that come about?
That was an odd I was actually referred, and it was about 12 years ago now, I'd say. So, how it flies.
yeah.
Someone referred me, she had been called about to get some more, imagine this, female voices.
Huh.
Don't you know? So, they wanted more female narrators at a particular company, and I was referred as someone who I was with an agent in LA, AVO, and, did a lot of narration and other things, commercial work, the things we do, Lisa. And, I went in for an audition, and it was just kind of, in the deep end. I think, slapped the script down. The first movie I ever did was The Book Thief, which is a pretty long movie, and it's set in Germany, and the World War II themed, and so there are a lot of German words and places, and so, that it you know, that was kind of trial by fire, but I I guess I did okay, and, they kept bringing me back, and I love the work because it's got another dimension to it. It's because I know that it's helping someone, right? In that moment, it's helping someone really experience more fully or at all because that piece, depending on how much description there is. If it's subtitled, and you really have to eat your Wheaties that morning because it's all talking. You're doing all the description and all the dialogue.
Oh,
So you're
wow.
flipping back and forth. If you have
Wow.
3 or 4 people in the room, you're trying to differentiate, but only slightly because you're not wanting to insinuate yourself into the performance. So there's no mental multitasking
Well,
in
and
those
do you get
particular
lists of
days.
vocabulary? So here, my problem would be, they have the word the. I don't know. Is it the, they? I, I might get that mixed. How in the world do you prepare, or they just assume that you are strong enough that in the moment you'll hear, and then does somebody say, Don, that's not the right way to do it? How does that
Do
work?
you
Do you
ever
get,
have a director, or are you just on your own with
Yes,
the
there
software?
there is a director in my ear all the time. Yeah, for the full performance. Um, and we'll find things too, sometimes there'll be something like there's so much. There's so many visual elements for a writer to pick one piece and say, "This is the important thing that the blind person needs to hear and can't see." And sometimes, things need to be added or it the writers are really wonderful, so they very rarely overwrite, but every now and then that can happen just because there's so much information. So there'll be rewrites sometimes during the narration,
ah,
and you'll come back, they'll QC it, we'll go to lunch, they'll QC the film and watch the whole thing, listening to the AD and then making changes or or if I mess up or, or if I did something sloppy, then we'll come back and we'll clean things up.
Wow. I mean, I don't, first off, I doubt that not that many people do that because one, you have to go in and you have to be close to a facility. Number two,
Mhm.
obviously a specialty. And if you have to choose me or you, I think that's a pretty easy decision. You're all day long. Uh,
We all we all have our projects, right?
right.
We have all the things we're just right for.
But I'm
So
guessing when you went in the first few times, your performance background kicked in where you kind of know, the show has to go on. I might be nervous. How do you handle nerves and, going into a situation that you haven't been in before when we're all kind of, some of us are self-conscious when that comes up. How do you handle that? How do you deal with it?
yeah, in that particular situation, you're so right because just as the work that Lisa does, I had done a lot of industrial narration or video narration. That was a lot of even the infomercials were really big, in the 80s, and did a lot of that stuff in Orange County for some reason. There's a lot of that done there, and so I was at least familiar with working with time codes. So I tried to grab what I knew of that and at least apply that to it. Um, but then in general, when you ask how do you manage or prepare for unknown, terrain, um, my best friend is deep breathing. This deep yogic breathing, a basic, yeah, inhaling for 4, holding for 8, exhaling on 12. As long as you exhale longer than you're inhaling, you're calming the nervous system. You're calming the system. You're calming, yeah, and it's just, you're recruiting the power of your physiology to override your crazy thoughts and anxiety. And that start with that. And I also feel my feet on the stay grounded. I was a shiatsu massage therapist for about 10 years in Los Angeles. And that was like one of the first things our sensei taught us. Make sure your feet are rooted on the ground because that's where you're drawing your energy and your ability to listen and all of that. So that has stayed with me.
That's really cool. That's, outside I did do some martial arts. I kind of just a little
Mhm.
bit, but performance under pressure is something that most people have to experience some of it and realize, oh, I can do this. Now,
Mm,
for me, the nerves have never gone away. I could be driving to a gig where I had played with these same group of people 20 times, and I'd still be a little bit nervous coming in sometimes, like, because I don't know the music. Sometimes you didn't know some of the musicians, and
yeah.
you get used to the fact that, okay, I'm gonna be a little uncomfortable. How about you? How does that work?
Oh, absolutely. They never go away. It's just about, I think it's just about negotiating with them and um under knowing know thyself, right? What it takes for you, how much time you're going to need to kind of calm yourself to the point where you can be present, not out of your mind, literally somewhere when you're in a situation, because that can happen, right? When we're
Sure.
really anxious, that we end up being kind of an out of body experience. It ends up being and you don't really necessarily remember what happened because you weren't really present, right? And you can't be your best self. You can't really listen well and respond, at, in a helpful, appropriate way. So yeah, they never really go away. And I think the better you can get at translating that anxiety or that stage fright into something useful that, to kind of uh, translate it into a fire in the belly where you can tap into it a little bit more. Once you get started, it's usually
Right.
easier, right? Once you start
Absolutely.
playing music, it's all about the music. You're serving
Right.
the medium, and then you're in it. It's getting there. It's like going to the gym. It's getting there is the hard part.
Anything on that?
Hmm.
So, for me, how does that translate now when you're self-directing?
Um,
Because you're recording now, like how much? What's the proportion of work you do that's just you at home in your booth working on a book?
Versus
oh,
description.
yeah, it's well, audio description is all in studio, but with audiobook narration, um Yeah, all of mine has so far has been self-directed because I'm still fairly new in this world of audiobooks. I know it's a long game, and so I'm learning all the time and self-directing, and every now and then I will uh, ask for some help. I'll get another ear because I feel I need that perspective, some objectivity, because I can never be 100% objective, if I'm
Right.
honest with myself. So, um,
That's actually a
but
smart performer, by the way.
oh, good, shwoo.
It
Yeah,
is.
it's
I don't know any. Do you know some of the best musicians? We're in the Olympic season. I don't know anybody who's at the Olympics that doesn't have a coach. Maybe there are some, because I don't know obviously, I don't know all of them. But I mean, the classic thing is that every Olympian has somebody they're working with to help them with their mental game, to help them with their physical game, to help them.
absolutely
And
A
I,
Mhm.
strength coach, a flexibility coach,
right.
a mental coach,
Team,
let alone
right?
the
A whole
performance.
team.
Yeah, a whole support team, and we're sitting here in our
Yeah.
own little space most of the time. And unfortunately, I think somebody newer to the business doesn't understand that most of us that stay in the business have a set of ears or somebody else that we trust. We've either have a paid coach, we have a peer group, some sort of workout group, and we
Mm,
are depending on them to help us refine as well because we need that outside perspective. Is it similar for you?
absolutely. Yeah, I'm always studying in one way or the other, either privately or I I love the energy of a group
Mhm.
class too because you learn so much from listening to others. I know it's often said a lot, but because it's just a fundamental truth. You can when you're not in it and creating it yourself, you can listen with different ears and, you know, uh, direction for someone else, you can apply it in myriad ways. So I like to that's how you try to stay sharp and try to level up. You always have to, challenge yourself and not to get too complacent, right? In any aspect of the arts, of the performing arts. I think
And
we are our instruments, so we have to keep things sharp.
I think maybe we met at the New England Narrators Retreat in 2022 or 3. Is that
No, I
no?
have not had the pleasure yet of attending Neener.
Okay.
That's on the list.
I was
Wonderful.
thinking we had met there the first time, but
Um, I I know we hung out a little bit at the, Post Audis in LA,
Okay.
uh, that I remember that,
yeah.
that was
I I know we have a picture from that, but, I
yes,
was thinking we had initially connected somewhere. Maybe it was just Facebook, so I felt like I had met you.
I know,
I'm
I felt
turning
like
into
I knew
Johnny
you.
where I can't remember where I met people.
I
It's
know, there's
always
so many of us. When the moments that we get together, it's hundreds at a time,
Right.
so it's hard to,
Well,
keep everybody
and
straight.
thankfully, especially you ladies, you all look exactly like your profile pictures.
Sure.
Exactly,
Yeah.
or better.
Yeah, well, of course, yes, yes. And us guys look worse, but that's a
Checks in the
different
mail, Don.
but I find it interesting. So you still coaching, get together with groups. Why don't you stop that? You've been doing this a few weeks, and so you don't need any more input. You should have already arrived by now. What's wrong with you?
Ah, pure folly to think to think that way, right? I mean, you do, uh, I've talked to colleagues who railed against coaching and didn't want, felt exactly as you've described, and you know, eventually things change enough where you can, slip into obsolescence in a way or, start feeling not relevant or just not with the program anymore. Not either styles change and especially commercially, Lisa, how you have to be when you look at what happened during the pandemic, for example, the style, I mean, everything became intimate, touchy-feely, care related because that's where we were as a
Right.
nation, and that's what no one wanted to hear, you know, luxury item, bling, all of that. And so, people pulled whole campaigns
Right.
because it was not of the moment. And on a larger, on a career scale, I think that you have to listen well to the trends. And that with audiobooks, that I know that takes on a different meaning because you have classic work and you have genre work. Those are, I guess that would be the parallel to trends. Different, but you want to know about that genre when you go into something like a crime thriller or noir, something, Johnny is so insanely wonderful at. Um, you wanna know how those worlds are built and what's this what that sounds like and feels like, what the kind of the overall essence of that world is. You wanna be schooled in that and present for the present day, not what happened 20 years ago.
Are there
So,
current genres that you're right now interested in and studying or kind of checking out? And what would be your favorites?
uh, well, to sound like a broken record, I love thrillers. Did I mention I love thrillers?
Yeah, but so
Um,
okay, so I like thrillers, but I've never done one. What would you recommend I start
mm,
with, or how do I ground myself in a thriller? What would you recommend to me when I don't know anything?
Or
you
what
don't
are some
know.
to listen to that, like, maybe some of
Mhm.
your favorites you've done that would be
Um, I think well, I love the Meg Gardner series that, Hillary Huber narrates. She anything by Meg Gardner, she has a protagonist, that is just a female protagonist that I love, and that in general is female protagonists who are strong and gritty in crime thrillers and things are such a great, um reference for me, for women who wanna do that, and there aren't that many of them, and usually they're written by female authors. So but when you say Don, can you elaborate a little bit? Like, what as far as what would you,
So
how
what
would
would
you
you advise
perform a
me?
thriller?
Yeah. So if I want to get into that, I want to do crime thrillers. Do I just how do what's a good grounding for that?
I'd say listen, listen, listen for one, to start with, to find, um, folks who are kind of comps for you, people that you feel are a similar um, j something you would be reading with, someone you would be reading with, another or people that you aspire to, whose work you admire and feel really grasps that genre well, and listen to their work and find places where you can, relate in a performance way to what they're doing. I'd say get it in your ear, get that in your psyche. That's what I do if I'm really, really wanting to dive in deeply. I listen while I'm doing other things. You it enters your system in different ways depending on what you're doing, right? Or where
Right.
you are. Sometimes you remember a moment because you were looking at that tree while you were driving during that moment. That's how I kind of retrieve things sometimes. But I'd say start by listening to the really great narrators in that genre and then some of that you'll absorb some of that without, not unconsciously
Right.
or subconscious. Hopefully you'll be awake, but
Yeah. I mean, we do that with music. There's anything that I ever did well as a young drummer came from I probably heard some of the greats do something similar. I might have been nobody knew I was imitating a specific other drummer, but it is something that maybe I'd heard hundreds of times before. And then when the circumstance came up, I had something to retrieve, and then I added, or it came out slightly different. So nobody else knew the reference unless they were another drummer. Then they go, ah, he's just imitating that guy or that gal, whatever. So, is it similar for you?
yeah, you just reminded me of something one of my old acting teachers used to say. He'd say, "Sure, do it like Laurence Olivier." you'll never be
Right.
Laurence Olivier. So don't worry, you won't be mistaken. You
Yeah.
know, and it was so true. I mean, he was snarky, but it was so true. You really understand that, right? Like you said, you will emulate the spirit of that riff or something, but it's gonna be Don's riff, you're
Yeah.
gonna infuse it with it's coming through your system and your instrument, and so you're gonna add your personal essence to it, and I think that's why, we always hear, be yourself," ad nauseum we hear that, but there's it's such a simple truth because once you stamp it, you put your mark of originality on that riff or on that delivery, and no one is you, and you are no one else, and so
Yeah.
that's
Uh,
when you're hired, you're hired because they want you.
if I went back as a young musician, a young performer, I would do more imitation than what I was afraid to sound like somebody else when I was young.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
as I matured, I found out that no, that's okay to do for a period of time. Like you might spend 6 months studying a specific, listening to somebody and getting the way they do it in your head, and it will come
mhm,
out different. And then you switch to another, and as long as you now have two, three, four, five different influences over time, first off, I can't imitate them. I don't have the same exact background, so it never came out exactly like the person I was trying to do. But I certainly r- value the trying to emulate somebody short term. And for me, short term would be 6 months to a year now, maybe even
mm,
longer. And it'd be okay if
mhm,
I was trying to be perfectly like some other
yeah,
artist, knowing that that was not my end goal, but it was a means to get good at it and then be a little chameleon that could go from being this person to this person to this, and then sometimes then it would all come out a total mess of all them. No one would recognize them because they all kind of come together later. But I was afraid of that. Any similar type things for you?
uh, I think, over the years, and when you do find different people that you you wanna take some gold from each one of them, that, like, there's a specific habit or something that you respond to, uh, over and over again with a certain artist, and that's something you wanna, process, run through your own system and know that you can call on it and put it in your toolbox
Right.
when you need it, right? So you can consciously grab it. And as you accumulate things over the years, then you have a strong, I think you have a stronger sense of yourself and who you are as an artist and what your imprint is. Um, but you have choices, like they're proven choices,
Right.
time tested. And so you kind of have the best of both worlds if you can, and I think the key is repetition,
Yeah.
to achieve as close to mastery as we can,
Yeah.
uh, and making those choices of, using that particular style over and over again, and then you get positive reinforcement for it. "Ah, that worked. Oh, that was the right choice for that moment."
Bless
So, bless you.
you. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, but
Amen.
I'm gonna guess when you did when you were studying ballet and dance, you would do it once or twice, and then you would know it all. Correct?
You got it.
Yeah. Now, for anyone who hasn't taken
Exactly.
a dance class and a ballet class, I did take some when I was in my 40s. It's like I would go into a beginning class and I was a true beginner. And there would be somebody that had been doing this for 5, 7, 10 years.
20.
And they went back
Yeah.
to a beginning class to work on
Yep.
their fundamentals and that they had no apologies about it. And they realized that they were always working on their foundation. And I think actors
Mhm.
are the same way that they always, the good ones, they're
Mhm.
always working on their foundation and working on the cool trick of the day, trick of the month, whatever. But they're always working on their foundation. So that's why I suspect you get together with other people. Is same sort of thing for you? Something different?
Yes, absolutely. You always have to go back to the fundamentals, and of course, ballet is such a great example of that because you're literally, you wanna be sure-footed and you want strong roots. So that brings me back to shiatsu, or my sensei used to say, if the roots are strong, the branches and the leaves can grow. But you have to pay attention to the root, mind the roots first. And so that's, you can go off and do a great cool project that's a little fringe or, off the beaten track, and the strength of the root gives you the freedom to do that.
Right.
So, I think it's a balance. You always wanna go back, reaffirm that, make sure that, if you need to course correct a little bit just to feel grounded, especially if you're gonna go on an unknown journey, if you're gonna try something new or try to break into a new genre or a new area of, voice work. It's really important to have your bread and butter, in place and your, um, artistic foundation.
So if somebody's newer, advice for them?
Um, I'd say study with Dawn and get your get all your equipment, get your sound right. That's an important thing in the beginning too. I mean, it's expensive, be honest, right? To outfit your place with the best equipment and, get all the latest and greatest for your booth. But that's we work up to that.
Right.
So there's a way to do it reasonably, and I think having guidance from an expert rather than piecemealing it through Facebook comments and, not knowing exactly, maybe buying this expensive interface or some piece of equipment that you don't have to, buy sell the farm for that, and then you can't get your mic, and, I've seen all sorts of configurations. So I would just say get guidance from, someone who knows and has been in the business, present company included, um, you know, f about what to start with smartly so they don't people don't feel like, "Oh, I spent all this money,
Right.
now I have to make it back," and then, immediately there's this pressure on the art.
Right.
And I think that's as far as a career-long principle, as much as you can remove um, the need and any smack of desperation of making money from your art, as much as you can,
Right.
you know, offers us all sorts of curveballs, but, to try to keep it, uh, as s sacred or as separate as possible, just so that you can maintain that spirit of play within the work, and ease, bring that sense of ease so you're not feeling an oppressed, you know, desperation, I guess, is really the best word to associate with your art.
Well, I know it all
Even
it go ahead. It's a musicians and dancers understand feel. I mean, because an example would be you and I both could do a pirouette. I wouldn't do it as well.
Mhm,
Um, but somebody who really knows it does it with a certain feel that is different than somebody who is a total beginner. And some of that feel
mhm,
aspect of it and what feels right, what comes across as just wow, that is amazing, as opposed to a
mhm,
little bit clunky when you're starting. That's something
mhm,
that people have to go through and do a lot of reps before they get a handle on that stuff. And it's a
mhm,
path that usually requires a third eye watching you to help tune some things. Um,
mhm,
if somebody's
yeah.
new, like, do you like crowdsourcing all your acting choices? Is that the way you would go about it these days?
I think not.
No, well,
Yes.
why
I think
not?
not.
Why? What's the what? But remember, if I don't know anything, and I ask a question in a group, I'm going to get a bunch of answers, and I'm now going to know something, right?
Yes, or other, something or other. Um, yeah, I think, the first thing I would say is get a good coach, someone that you can like, find a North Star, someone that do your research, and you could ask about coaches. That's one thing you could kind of crowdsource about initially. Um, and then use your own gut, your gut intuition, your intuitive knowledge and wisdom to go through their website, contact them, see if they'll answer a few questions, create 3 stock questions and send it to 5 coach options that you've narrowed it down to, and see who feels like the best fit,
Yeah.
and, do it mindfully. And then you have someone, you know you want to, I would say, create some consistency with seeing that person so that they get to know you and your work and what you need, and you build a trust, and so you can ask the dumb questions or whatever you feel, the things that you might hold back from in a group or crowdsourcing. And you don't lay it out to cast your pearls, because you will get answers and you'll get all sorts of answers, as you alluded to. But if you have a trusted relationship with a vetted coach, I think that is one of the most valuable things you can do. Investments, it will pay for itself over and over again in avoiding mistakes and going off on goose chases and in all myriad ways.
Yeah, I like the crowdsourcing stuff in terms of how somebody can ask a specific question and they get 16 answers, and they're about three totally opposite points of view on the same thing. And one of the big things in this business is vetting your advisors. Now, my advisor might not be a paid advisor, but Lisa's not going to ask me about the best way to have maybe deal with childbirth. Okay. She, I mean, not that I'm not an expert. I just want to get that out there. I think I know
Yeah, no,
everything about it that you could know. No.
multi-talented.
Um, I have been an observer. We have five kids, so I am
This
as,
is the man who said, "Where's the manual?" on baby 4, who was arriving before the midwife,
yeah.
clearly.
But so point is that I've been around it a few times. I've been an unwilling participant in some aspects of it, inadvertently with some home births on purpose. But that doesn't make me an expert. I have opinions on it, and you know,
Yeah,
nobody is dumb enough to talk to me about childbirth because because I'm clearly inept at that. But but I can certainly say things with authority because I have five. And so sometimes see people will take that as, wow, he must know a lot about it. It's like, no, do not listen to anything I've ever said about that, because my sense of authority about it is on a very, very, very narrow one person point of view. And I can tell you
mhm,
some things about how it worked in our case, but that is still narrow. And five is not a big enough, set
yeah,
to have real good insights. But I certainly could say it with authority, or come across as an authority. If you
right.
are asking me for that advice, please vet and go, well, how would you know about this? And you will quickly go, well, he has, he thinks he knows, he don't. And that unfortunately is one of the problems and the good things. And so how do you vet your advisors? What do you send them the questions, and then how do you know what's a good question or a good answer?
Well, I think part of it is, you've got to just, as you would with anything, use your common sense.
Hmm.
If somebody's trying to upsell you
Hmm.
immediately, red light, right?
Okay, that's good. That's a good tip.
You know, that's just a, very tangible thing, because if someone's offering huge, multi-tiered packages that you must have a completed one and written a check for that one before you hit this, run, don't walk is what I would say,
Yep.
because, that's not where you want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a business and everyone is diversifying. And so I understand that. But you want to, your money is hard earned, or
Yeah.
mine is, and many of us are. So I would say, that's one thing, is to look at the selling factor, or how it is something being pushed. How hard is it being pushed? I vet my coaches first by their involvement in the community, I think, because um, they tend to be the people who are giving back, and kind of there's a lot of volunteerism in this community, and you see the spirit of the real long-term veterans who have longevity and sustainability, because they're connecting. It's not just a job for them.
Right.
This is a kind of an extended family in a way. It feels as such when I see real veterans, connecting and the integrity of what they're offering. So I look for longevity and I look for um, uh, what they are what they specialize in too. Different people for me, um, I went to a woman initially. I initially went to Scott Brick because I knew him. I knew who he was, and we met a couple of times here in Los Angeles.
Sure.
And so I thought, well, where do I begin? Who would know? Scott Brick would know. And so I did a session with him, and he very generously said, if you should study with a woman, or have a woman's guidance. Here's Hillary Huber's number. You can't go wrong. And he was so right. It
Yeah.
was exactly what I needed, and was such you know, an organic, and he was of course, another thing is you trust the recommendation, the recommender. If you're that's another way of vetting who's doing the recommendation and how much longevity do they have in the industry. What's their experience? So those are a couple of elements that go into.
Well, I'd say you went to somebody who was already well vetted. Scott Brick would be absolutely somebody who has been in the industry for a long time, recommended somebody else to you. That's totally different than asking me when I'm in this for 6 months. And the other thing, if somebody has a history, like if they've done 20 royalty shares, then the big question is, first off, I have a puppy dog, really super smart, and he probably could get a royalty share if I, did the right kind of profile. But
Right.
the question is, there are kind of two. It divides out. There are some people that have made boatloads of money doing royalty share, and
Hmm.
and they have done it very well. And there's a set of people that have done a boatload of books, and they haven't earned much money from it. So you kind of have to go through your role when you're checking them out. Just because I've done 50 books, that could be a great calling card. It also could have been 50 books that were on prepping or dishwashing. How to be a dishwasher. I could probably do 50 books on that. And that doesn't necessarily qualify me to help you earn revenue and have a career.
Hmm.
Okay,
Or
Yeah.
so
translate to doing thrillers.
what's that? Yeah, yeah. I probably couldn't do thrillers because I've done how to wash dishes in 40 continents type thing. That's it doesn't always translate. So
Right.
So we'll kind of summarize that as vet your advisors wisely. Okay, that's a
Hmm.
real life skill that a lot of people
Yes.
need some more coaching on. So as we wrap up here, as we get to the end, and you've been awesome. Anything you'd like to tell people? How do they get a hold of you? Um, what do you have coming up that's cool? What would you like to leave people with?
You can reach me by my website, which
Hmm.
is claudiadunn.com, and yes, very straightforward.
That's good. That's
Um,
perfect. That's perfect.
Thank goodness I got that domain in the 90s,
Yes.
because now there are lots of Claudia Dunns out there. Um, and I'm excited because I just got my first PRH book.
Oh,
So I'm
congratulations.
excited
Now, so
about
you're
that.
an overnight success. How long you been doing
Yeah,
this?
absolutely.
How long you been doing voiceover and related projects?
Golly, 35 years-ish, something like that. A long night.
Yeah, but
A long overnight.
oh, I spelled that wrong. Gee, look at that. I typoed that. So I'm going to type that. I'm going to get that right. See you, Claudia. Let me get that right. And let me put that up there big so that people can see it.
Thank
And
you.
you verify for me. Did I get that right? Did I spell that right?
Perfect.
All right.
Yep.
So strike the first one and keep the second one. Okay. So that's super cool. And anything else fun coming up for you?
Mhm. Anything else fun? Well, I'm looking forward to the Academy Awards because I did, the audio description on Hamnet, and, it's nominated for many, many awards, and as it should be. It's such a beautiful film. I don't know if you've seen it,
I
but,
haven't seen it yet. No,
oh,
no. So
bring your tissues. That's what I would say.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you will be made at least the lump will get here. And, yeah, if you're like me, it was a tough one to narrate because
So
you'll
you did
see.
the audio description on it?
I did, yes.
That is cool. That is cool. How
That
long
was
does
a
a
gift.
project like that take?
About about 6, 7 hours,
Wow.
with a QC, with a break for the QC.
That is
So,
super cool. Well, thank you
that was a
for
yeah.
being with us today. You're a joy. I
Thank
really
you so much.
appreciate you joining us. And Lisa, thank you for being here. Thanks
Yes,
filling
thanks
in
for
for
having me.
Johnny. At least we have somebody, one of the three. One anyway. So be sure to subscribe. Be sure to leave comments after this is over. It's super helpful. Share it with other people. And of course, check out pre-read. And I'll talk about that,
Yeah.
once again next week. Johnny will be back with us next week. Hope you have a fantastic week. And as always, we'll see you on the wires. Have a great day.